Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Chicago. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Ben Seck, Steve Rubin on your right, Yuya Watanabe on the left, and we are off to the races. Unfortunately, Yuya's got a little bit slow of a horse here in this particular race. He's on 5 cards.
Yeah, no, and this is a brutal matchup to have, kind of like to be short on a card, because one thing that obviously happens is thought seizes on both sides, so you just strip each other's hands bare. Now, you're only having 2 action spells, like a Barb Light, which isn't that good, and a Thought Seize. So he's taking the Thought Seize, leaving the Barb Light.
Yeah, this matchup often comes down to just straight up attrition, where people can trade cards forever, and then whoever can stick an Underworld Connections on the battlefield will be good to go. Now Yuya finds a Pack Rat though.
Yeah.
That is about the best draw he could have there.
Right, like yep. Unless if Steve didn't actually answer it straight away, it could have gone out of hand really quickly, even if he has like short on cards. As it is actually, they're both playing an almost mirror. They're both playing like black with a very light touch of green for Abrupt Decay. Yu has a slightly different version because he has a Golgari Charm as well, main.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Oh, is this going to be? Wow, good draws here for Yuya. Finds an Underworld Connections to help dig him out. This is one of the most important cards in the matchup.
No, absolutely. But in this specific matchup with the green decks, usually there's no way of getting rid of your Underworld Connections. But the black-green variants actually have Abrupt Decay, so they can actually fight against like other Underworld Connections.
And that's pretty much the reason why the green is in there at all. But it looks like Yuya does get to start drawing cards here, though. He's up against a Lifebane zombie now, so his life total will start to get taken away in chunks. But you got to figure he can find a way to deal with the Lifebane zombie before it becomes a major issue.
Okay. So Yuya kind of trying to undo a lot of the like card disadvantage from his mulligan via the connections. If Steve Rubin has a Abrupt Decay, he'll be able to kind of like deal with that quicker. Attacking with the Lifebane zombie, putting a little bit of pressure on Yuya's life. You using that Barb Light that we saw at the beginning of the game.
And Yuya continues to chunk away with the Underworld Connections, just digging himself right back into this game. Looks like he's fully there.
Yeah, he's back to kind of almost he's back to parity, like from a card disadvantage wise. Obviously, he's a little bit lower in life because he's paid some life to draw those cards, but he's basically undone most of the issue that he started with the mulligan. You with the only kind of threats on the board with the 2 Mutavault, but he doesn't really want to like activate them in like possibly like worried about Wild Blight on the other side.
Sure. Steve Rubin with 5 untapped mana and plenty of cards in hand. He got to figure he's got some stranded removal spells in there.
As it turns out, it looks like Steve just has a lot of land in his hand, not a lot of action. I mean, he's basically like passed the turn for the last like 3 turns. Hasn't really like affected the board at all. Meanwhile, Yuya is just like you know, increasing his advantage with the Underworld Connections. Kind of just going with 1 Mutavault, because if he activates both of them, the Barb Light would kill both of them.
That's right, and he's even got a replacement Mutavault here.
And it looks like Steven has drawn a Pack Rat, it looks like. So he's kind of like trying to work out whether he wants to play Pack Rat now, whether he...
Pack Rat?
Yep, and there's the Pack Rat.
Pack Rat Mutavault go.
Now he's gone from almost like no threats to infinite threats.
Right.
Just in the blink of an eye. But
this is where flooding doesn't look that bad.
Right. But he gets to make a rat in response. It seems that if Yuya is willing to actually use a removal spell to kill a Pack Rat that can make it like essentially a copy, he very likely to actually have another another removal spell so he can get rid of the copy. He actually has a token version of the pack rat.
Yeah, he does.
That he's Xeroxed.
Unfortunately, though, only 2 mana, so yeah, Yuya just has to find one more way to kill a creature here, and he'll be okay. Now, it can't be Devour Flesh, though, as there's a Mutavault hiding up in Steve Rubin's mana base there.
Oh, he just drew a Hero's Downfall.
Did he really?
Yeah, just like... I think Yuya's like thinking of attacking.
I think he was going to send in a Mutavault there, yeah.
He's happy with the trade there if he gets that. Allows him to save his removal spell for later, but I don't think that Steven will actually bite on that, and so you casting his freshly drawn Hero's Downfall.
Pretty nice. I mean, a late game pack rat from a player stranded with a bunch of lands in his hand is usually very difficult to get rid of, but Yuya finds a way to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's the power of the Underworld connections. And speak of the devil, there is another Underworld connections on Steve's side, which now allows him to like at least keep up parity, like card advantage wise. Now it's going to be a race to the abrupt decays, because the first player that can actually disrupt the opposing Underworld connections is likely to be the winner here.
Yeah, now Yuya Watanabe he's drawn 6 extra cards off that thing, 5, whatever it is, but yeah, a million cards off of it, so he's certainly has dug deper into his library so far. They're going to trade Mutavaults here.
It does look like both of them are actually being like flooding quite badly. Now there's a Grey Merchant for 4.
Yeah, also, I don't know if you saw, but Yuya played Temple of Malady and just instantly put the card back on top.
Right.
Probably an Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, I would think so. It's probably the most important card to draw right now. The other thing he could probably do is another Connections would also be like a keep. But really, it's all about Connections. So it's either a way to kill Connections or Connections itself.
Yeah, it could also just be another Grey Merchant here too. Steve Rubin's down to 6.
Yep.
And he shows him nothing.
Yeah, no. If it's a Grey Merchant, it's over.
It's a Grey Merchant.
Oh yeah,
yep.
No,
so it's just
like
the winner.
So Yuya, like, just overcoming like the double mulligan. Like, I mean, we looked at his opening hand. He got Thoughtseize. His Thoughtseize got Thoughtseize, and he had nothing. But he was able to like cobble together basically a card advantage engine with Underworld connections. Steve Rubin didn't draw any of his black-green like removal to get rid of it, and was able to take it away.
That's right. Let's take a look at Jared Betcher versus Harry Corvasi, a pretty well-developed board here. Looks like Harry's on Esper or blue-white control, and we've seen Jared Betcher. He's on mono-black but with red.
You're right. So this is a really, really important match. I believe the person who wins actually is able to draw in. I think they're both at X and 1.
And Jared wins that first game.
Okay, so I mean, this is looking good for Jared's kind of like looking to cement the Rook of the Year.
You can look at the 2 players behind there and see Jared smiling and talking, and Harry kind of hunched over looking at his sideboard. You can figure out who won that one pretty easy.
But it was funny. I saw a Detention Sphere having 3 Underworld connections under it. So he must have like already got a lot of the cards out of those Underworld connections before he got 3 for 1. Yuya really kind of having a bit of a quiet year, and actually this is the first time we featured him this tournament. Like, he really hasn't you know, like kind of like come to the front, but now he's 12-2 and actually a good shot to make top 8.
Yeah, that guy's insane. He's just insane. His numbers are ridiculous too.
Yeah.
It's hard to forget he hasn't been around forever either. Gotta look at Yuya Watanabe here.
Yeah, no, he's like ranked 13 in the top 25 pro rankings. He actually has 2 Pro Tour top 8s. And an amazing 20 Grand Prix top 8s. That's an insane amount.
Yeah, also 7 GP wins out of those 20 top 8s.
I mean,
conversion rate is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically one in 3 times that he makes top 8. Like 8 people in the top 8, 1 every 3 times he actually wins the event himself. I mean, he like a few seasons ago in 2009, he was a juggernaut, like almost unbeatable. And he actually had his Player of the Year in 2009. 2012, he was actually Player of the Year. Also won the Players' Championship to do so.
In its inaugural season, yeah, he's insane. Also, if you look at his numbers too, I think he's only played like 80 GPs or something, or 90. Like he top 8's like around 1 in 4 that he plays.
Yeah, like one of the tightest kind of like technical players
Yes.
like from Japan and in the whole world. He's locked for platinum, so he's looking good to actually like go back to the World Championship and actually like make an impact. I think Yuya is the current leader for. I'm not sure if he's either second or first in the Japan World Cup team captain. So
The national champion.
yeah.
So between him and Shuhei,
No, Shuhei's a little bit further behind. I think.
Who's his competitor?
I think I can't remember. It's either it could be Yuta, possible.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly. Well, like I know there's a couple.
I mean, we've had some players from Japan top 8 the PT. That of course that gets you a huge jump.
Right. I mean, I think the one of the reasons why Yuya is doing so well this season is that he played in last year's World Championship. That gives you a great start to the season. He's 43 points, locked for platinum again. He would love to get 2 more points, so he actually, like gets platinum before. I guess it doesn't matter so much because he's platinum this year, but it really does. Every point counts for making sure that you are able to get to the World Championship.
Yeah, and the World Championship is a huge deal for the professional level players. Also, though, the World Magic Cup is a great thing, too. And getting all the pro points you can matters to become the national champion from your country, and you get to partake in the World Magic Cup, and that is a really special event.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's funny with the soccer World Cup going on, the football World Cup. It has a lot of, the Magic World Cup has a lot of the same kind of overtones. I mean, just for Magic itself, I mean, it allows a lot of the smaller countries to really shine. That's one of the good things, because the best pro player from the country always gets to represent them, and it allows countries to really kind of get behind the community and see how they do against the best.
And that does happen every time the World Magic Cup runs around. We've had a couple of them now. It is fantastic. It really is a showcase for a lot of the smaller countries to get on the biggest stage of Magic.
And some of them do extremely well. Some of the underdogs, have some upsets in the group stage, get into the elimination rounds, and really just, some of the best players, in recent years, have come from World Cup. They've qualified for the Pro Tour, doing well at the World Cup.
It's true. Okay, so Yuya starts things off with a Temple of Malady, puts a card on the bottom, passes the turn back, and here's a turn 2 pack rat. So Steve Rubin says, ball in your court, sir. Better have a 2-mana removal spell at the ready, and he does. Its ultimate price this time.
Yeah, it's one of those things, I think, in this matchup, or in any black kind of devotion matchup, if you don't have a way of dealing with the turn 2 pack rat, it's almost worth mulliganing. It's that devastating, because you get so far behind, the card can win by itself. So
wow, this is huge.
Not only do you not have a removal spell for the opposing pack rat, he did not drop a 3rd land.
He did not drop a 3rd land. He does have his own pack rat, but being 1 pack rat ahead is just monumental in this race, especially since Yuya can't reliably make one next turn without a land drop. And a lot of Yuya's lands come into play tapped. There's a decent amount of them at least.
Yeah.
I mean, are they playing Guild Gates in this?
They are playing a Guild. I think
he's got 2.
Yeah, he's got 2. So he has a few temples.
Yeah, he's got 3 more temples, 2 more Guild Gates.
He draws an Abrupt Decay, which is not a land, but it does allow him to kill a pack rat, but it's too late. A copy is already made. So it really looks like Steve Rubin might run away with this really, really quickly.
Are we talking about next turn Yuya has to drop Bile Blight, or this thing just ends?
I think we're at that stage. I mean, but if Steven has something like Mutavault, that might not even be enough.
Right.
Okay, so Yuya decides to Abrupt Decay the token.
Just to stem the bleeding here.
Yeah. Interesting to see that Steve actually has a Devour Flesh in his hand, so he can actually deal with Yuya's pack rat. So if he wants to kind of make sure that Yuya doesn't come back by destroying a land and making more rats, he can actually kill it right now. looks like
he's also got a couple of, he's got duress in his hand too, and underworld connections that he apparently can't activate this turn. He hasn't hit a land drop yet.
Yeah, I think he's probably either going to go duress, devour flesh, or play another rat. One of those two things probably is likely. It possibly goes for connections as well. So he goes for another rat.
I like just making rats here. I mean, it's clear that Yuya doesn't have an answer, right?
Yeah, no, the only thing you'd be worried about possibly is that Yuya can also start making rats if he draws an untapped land. Unfortunately, he just drew a tapped land.
Yeah, we were talking about that. It's one of the downsides here.
Yuya does have another pack rat, so he's able to kind of like virtually make another rat just because he actually has another copy. Steve Rubin's ahead of the kind of pack rat race just by virtue of drawing the land a little earlier. So Yuya is at a lower life total of 14, and that makes it like all the difference sometimes. If you happen to be a little bit more on the offensive, you're going to win that pack rat war. Oh, and also he just drew Mutavault, which is huge here. Mutavault like allows him to make the pack rats even bigger.
There's duress to take away the other duress, and Yuya Watanabe reveals his hand, which is Desecration Imminent, 3x Gray Merchant.
Yeah, those Gray Merchants are a little far off now. They're just 2 mana away. The Demon's not so good in the face of other pack rats. It's very likely that Steven's going to discard another card to make another pack rat here. And he does, discarding the Devour Flesh.
So Yuya takes 6, that puts him down to 8.
Now, the problem for Yuya now is that every pack rat is lethal. So I think he is likely to be dead, actually. No, he's actually like, he won't die exactly, but drew another Underworld Connections. So my assumption is probably he's going to make another pack rat, go into combat, sack a pack rat, and then attack for 6. Like if, yeah, so and that's what he does here. Yuya's forced to block. If he doesn't block, he actually dies on the spot. And
because of the Mutavault?
Yeah, because of the Mutavault. And so now he's forced to basically lose both his pack rats. Steve's trying to work out whether he's better off actually activating Mutavault or not. I think he's actually better off not activating it, because what it allows him to be protected by is like Bob Light won't get him, because he can make if he does it now, there'll be 3/3 during his opponent's turn.
Right. Yuya says, "What about my demon?" And Steve Rubin's like, "Come at me, bro."
Yeah.
And he declines. Unfortunately, Yuya also doesn't find his 5th mana there, so no Gray Merchant this turn. He did find an Abrupt Decay. Is that enough to make it so he's not just dead here?
I don't think so. I think the best strategy here is just to attack with everybody, including actually probably including the Mutavault.
He's got the land to be able to attack with Mutavault and still make a rat.
Right. So now he attacks, even at the Abrupt Decay happening.
And no sacking here.
Yeah, no sacking, because like blocking and sacking are basically the same thing, and then now it takes lethal. So Steve takes advantage of Yuya stumbling on mana, goes to 1-1, and this is the final game. Now, this is a really important one. Obviously, the person who loses this game is going to actually be knocked out of contention to top 8.
If so, why?
All right, let's take a look at our secondary match here. We came in just in time to watch Jared Betcher win the first game against Harry Corvasi.
This
This one's in the middle stages, though. Harry, if those are... So what are those sideways cards there?
So I think they're cards that have been flipped over by the Spectre.
By that Spectre that Harry's got. Okay.
That's right. So they're not in play.
Right.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would look like a dominant ball position by Harry.
Right.
Harry has 2 Spectres, which he has coming off the sideboard. Like particularly good against black decks, just because they don't have as many removal spells to kill that card specifically. Ultimate Price doesn't kill it. Doomblade doesn't kill it. Okay. I think Harry would like to turn over some swamps on Jared's deck, allow him to cast maybe the Erebos. Oh, with the Mana Confluence, which does something similar. If he actually casts the Erebos, he has Devotion.
I can win this race.
He has 2 Spectres, so he has 6. But it looks like he's not going to do that.
He does.
Actually true. Will you double Sphinx in it?
It looks like either Harry has a Sphinx's Revelation, I think. That's the most likely situation, why he didn't decide to actually cast the God.
Jared has double Underworld connections in hand. But they're just going to turn into rats anyway.
Yeah, like once you're in the rat plan, it's very, very likely that you remain in the rat plan. It doesn't matter how good the cards you draw are. So Harry's drawing 3.
There's a revelation that you predicted, Ben.
Yeah.
Do something to make me scoop. Do it.
So the 2 Spectres are.
You want to do it, do it.
I think he's still looking to attack here. I mean, we don't know the life totals because we're just having a quick look in. While Steve Rubin and Yuya Watanabe are shuffling. The games kind of down the stretch are always like very stressful for players. There's a lot on the line. Not only top 8 berth, these are like precious pro points that really mean kind of, what kind of standing they go into next year.
For an entire season,
yeah,
which is basically a year. All right, we are back underway though for Game 3 on our primary feature match here. Yuya Watanabe versus Steve Rubin.
So Yuya opens up with a Duress, seeing basically like one of 2 options. It's either a Golgari, Abrupt Decay, or Connections. 2 creatures that he can't take with a Duress, and then some land.
So Connections is obviously a huge card in the matchup, but Abrupt Decay is the only answer that Steve Rubin has right now for Yuya's Connections if he has one.
Right.
So without seeing his hand, it's hard to say, right?
Yeah. It basically what he takes is likely to indicate what is in his hand. We just see, I think, Yuya actually has a connection.
He does.
So he may think that since he's on the play, it's actually better for him to for connections, because if he plays it on turn 3, Steven will actually be able to kill it.
And
Okay.
It's like Yuya's decided he's going to live with that. And just have to fight through.
Yeah, so I think what Yuya's plan might be is to actually play the connections on an untapped land, essentially get a 2-for-1, because Abrupt Decay will be too slow to stop the card draw.
Right. And here's a Duress now for Steve Rubin, revealing Underworld Connections or Bile Blight. There's also a Demon and a Grey Merchant.
They have very, very similar hands.
Yeah.
The only difference really being the Abrupt Decay in Steve Rubin's hand. funnily enough, he takes the card that he actually can kill with Abrupt Decay. Yu doesn't have anything on turn 3 now. Steve Rubin drew a Pack Rat, so he knows that Yu has a Bile Blood in his hand, so he can suppress Pack Rat for the moment, but still is fine with essentially like forcing him to cast it this turn. Looks like Yu is thinking whether he's going to take the bait, and he does. Casting Bile Blight. I think he knows he's going to play Demon here. Demon's like really strong here. I mean, in the face of no creatures and no clear removal spell.
The mirror continues. These players are playing very similar deck lists to each other. And now it's 2 Desecration Demons staring at each other. Does Yu have a removal spell that can take care of that?
I think he drew another Desecration Demon, so so the person who goes first is actually like pretty advantaged here. Obviously, like just in general gets to attack first, and so Desecration Demon's not so good on the blocking. I think it's actually very likely that they're going to just trade Demons here. Yes,
yep, you're right. Do. So follow-up play. Oh, it's a Pack Rat.
Oh, not another Demon.
So he's got a Pack Rat with Pack Rat activation up here.
He only has 1 card in his hand though, so like this Pack Rat's going to deplete his hand. He really would like to get another removal spell. Sorry, another Underworld Connections. And Steve Rubin.
Jeez.
This is Rat versus Rat.
Rat for Rat, but Demon for Demon.
Funnily enough, because Steve went second, he actually has an extra card to discard the Rat, which actually may be pretty significant. Yu has a Grey Merchant in hand, so does Steven, and 1 other hidden card.
You like waited for me to start giving you back too when you
Yu makes a Rat.
Discards that Grey Merchant, but bolsters his board up here.
Oh, that's a Yu token.
It is a Yu token.
Yu just taking advantage of going first, making sure that he's basically getting first damage in. He discards his Thoughtseize to make another Rat.
So there's 6 damage right there. He's put 9 power up on the battlefield here. But Rubin gets to make a Rat now.
Yeah, like I think that the tough thing here is that how is Rubin really going to break the mirror, the almost identical mirror? I mean, they've played the same cards like sequenced against each other.
Seriously. Duress, and they take the same cards with Duress.
So Steve decides to that blocking is the way that he should approach this. His advantage is he has more cards, and he thinks that he can, if he can force. So he's going to make a Rat. I think he has an abrupt decay that he has earlier. So what he's going to do is going to make a Rat, like essentially match up all the Rats against each other,
and just domino them down.
That's right. Oh, and then Yu will probably make another Rat to win the mirror,
right.
And then he'll like actually abrupt decay him.
So there's the abrupt decay. Here's the blocks.
Again, they're staring into each other's souls, like trying to work out who has the better card in hand.
Right.
If one of them forces to discard, the other one has to as well. Wow. So
discards one of the better cards in the matchup for sure, Erebos.
Okay, so they both have Rats.
Left over, yes,
right.
After the exchange. So these are pretty big top decks here for both players.
Yeah, if one of them, like top decks, I guess if Steve top decks the removal spell, he's ahead. If Yuya does, he's actually behind.
Right.
So I think that's the thinking that Steve was thinking.
Gets interesting too, because like BioBlight doesn't do what they want to do here,
Right. No.
but some of their removal spells do still.
I think Steve's going to go the offense. Oh, cast Demon.
Oh, interesting. That hits hard.
Yeah, no. Yu-Yo draws Erebos,
Yeah.
which is normally pretty good in the mirror, except that like it's in a stage where it's possible the rat is slightly better, and he doesn't have devotion or enough devotion to actually make Erebos active, and taking like 2 life to draw a card is really kind of like dangerous in the face of a Desecration Demon.
Yeah. So it looks like he's decided to turn his Erebos into a rat instead.
So Steve like announces the trigger for the Demon. Yu doesn't choose to block with his pack rat or sack it to the Demon.
Your turn.
Putting him to 12. Discarding the Erebos that we talked about earlier. But Steve kept the card in hand, so either he's like wants to keep the information hidden, or he actually wants to like make a rat end of turn rather than like put it into play main phase. You're threatening at least 4 damage and possibly 6 damage. No, 6 because he drew another pack rat. Which player is that token? I think it's probably a player we know.
Is that Yu as well?
It could be.
Yeah,
no.
Look, it's the same pose.
Oh,
it's just in one he's graduated and in one he's got a sword.
It's a knight token. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So
I want Yu tokens.
okay, so Yuya's like trading rat for rat, but he's getting through 6. Looks like Yuya's in a little bit of trouble here. I mean,
What kind of cards does Yu need to see here to get himself out of it?
I think he just lets it
Nothing.
go.
That's
yeah,
gonna
nothing.
do it.
I don't know. I think he definitely had to draw a Hero's Downfall probably 2 turns ago. Yeah, he just kept on like going first was actually a little bit of a burden in that game.
Look at Yuya. He's super bummed.
Yeah,
Because he knows that was his top 8 chances disappearing there.
Right, and it was a tough loss because they drew, I would say, an identical hand. Every card match.
That was really strange.
Really extremely strange because they drew the same cards in the same order, and what happened was it became a game of attrition. And because Steven went second, he actually had an extra card basically to fight the rat war.
Right.
And therefore, it was the difference. I mean, they had identical cards, except right at the end, Steven drew a demon, which happens to trump the board.
It was the biggest thing on the board.
Right,
yeah.
right. And so it's those kind of games. That's what like Black Mirrors come down to. Is a really attrition-heavy game, and extra cards, I mean, like mean everything. And like if one of them was able to land a connections and draw 1 extra card, that would be a huge thing because you make more rats and that cascades on.
Right, and it's funny because both players were playing the black deck with the green in there specifically for that reason, right? I mean, like one of the